Notice is hereby given pursuant to the provision of section 20, subdivision 5 of the New York State Municipal Home Rule Law and section 264 of the state of New York Town Law, that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of DeWitt on Monday, June 29th, 2026 at 6:05 PM at the town offices, 5400 Butternut Drive, DeWitt, New York, on the question of adopting a local law to amend the DeWitt Town Code, Chapter 192, being local law number 6 of 2008, as has previously been amended by repealing Article 23 entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems, being local law 6 of 2025, in all of its provisions and subsections in its entirety, and enacting a new Article 23 entitled Battery Energy Storage Systems to establish new zoning regulations relating to the location, construction, operation, installation, implementation, and use of battery energy storage systems in the town of DeWitt as set forth in the proposed local law. A copy of said proposed local law is on file in the town clerk's office, 5400 Butternut Drive, and may be examined by any interested persons during regular business hours prior to the date of the hearing. And this was published in the Post Standard on June 14th, 2026.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I open it up to public comment, I just wanted to give a brief introduction to the law. What this law does, it's multiple pages, it's very thorough. It is based initially on the NYSERDA model law with many adjustments to make it more appropriate for the town of DeWitt. We included a extra tier. We have 3 tiers with the NYSERDA base law. Originally had 2 tiers. We are allowing the smallest battery energy storage systems, basically the size of one that would charge your car in your garage in residential areas, but including a registration for that with the town so that we can share that with our fire departments for both the safety of our residents and the safety of our firefighters that are entering those houses in case of a fire. Ultimately, for larger systems, this law limits battery energy storage systems to our industrial areas within the town of DeWitt and keeps them at least 1,000 feet away from housing within the town, because we do have significant outcroppings of houses in our industrial areas. So we wanted to make sure that those residents were also protected, even though they live in an industrial zone. So we've given this a lot of thought, and we're here tonight to listen to the public feedback. So with that, if you would like to come up and speak this evening, please raise your hand and I will call on you when you come up. Please remember to address your comments to the board. And identify yourself and whether you're a resident or representing someone else. So, yes, sir.
My name is Nick Smith. I'm with Acorn Development. First off, I would like to start out by thanking all of you for the productive conversations we've been able to have with you and the town staff on the regulation of battery energy storage. I've not always liked what I had to hear, but I always appreciate open and honest communication on an issue where both sides are working towards the best possible outcome. That kind of dialogue is becoming increasingly rare, and I appreciate it immensely. We had previously submitted written comments on the proposed law. Those concerns still stand, but tonight I would like to focus the board's attention on the items that I've considered the most critical: the treatment of battery energy storage systems in the high-tech district and the additional setback requirements. The high-tech district, as I understand it, the town's objective for the high-tech district is to attract high-tech manufacturing, R&D, and other types of development that will bring with them well-paying jobs and other associated investments into the community. The concern, as I understand it, is that battery energy storage might consume high-tech district land at the expense of those preferred uses, and that an overly permissive code could lead to a proliferation of these facilities across the town. Those are reasonable concerns, but as written, the restrictions in the proposed law do not advance them, and in some instances, even work against them. Grid reliability is exactly what these targeted industries are looking for. Among the first criteria that advanced manufacturing and R&D companies evaluate when citing a facility is the reliability and efficiency of the local grid. These are power-intensive, interruption-sensitive operations, and battery storage system strengthens local grid reliability and resiliency. Rather than competing with the district's purposes, storage infrastructure makes the district measurably more appealing to the very types of development the town is trying to attract. Many high-tech parcels cannot realistically support the preferred uses, but suit storage well. After a cursory review of the high-tech district, we identified more than 50 small parcels within the district that are too small to realistically support manufacturing, R&D, or office park development consistent with the district's stated purpose, but would be well suited for battery storage. These parcels are not where the next advanced manufacturing facility is going to land, but they are, however, well suited to DER scale standalone storage. Permitting storage on these parcels puts otherwise underutilized land to productive use without displacing other development, all the while making the nearby parcels that are well suited for the preferred uses more attractive. Regarding the possible proliferation, grid side limits are already prevent this. The concerns about proliferation is already answered by the constraints of the distribution system. The majority of the three-phase lines in the town are 13.2 kV. As a practical matter, 13.2 kV line can only host a maximum of 2 5-megawatt projects, all along its length. The town does not need to legislatively limit the number of these installs because the technical limitations of the grid already impose this restriction. To put that into perspective, one of the lines in the town is feeder 36_11_26154. This feeder runs more than 6.5 miles from the Fly Road substation on Fly Road, just west of 481. It runs 6.5 miles east all the way out to Kirkville, where it then terminates on Kirkville Road just before going across the Northway. That's 6.5 miles, only 2 projects. That entire stretch could, the capacity is simply not there for the proliferation the code is trying to guard against. Blanket restrictions and added setbacks produce the opposite of the intended result. The setback limitations in the proposed law are meant to preserve high-tech and other industrial land for job-generating uses. Blanket exclusions and storage-specific setbacks do the reverse. Excluding storage from the high-tech district prevents the development on parcels that could make sense from a land use standpoint and that are consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. The additional specific setbacks limit these installs to large parcels and push projects towards the center of those same parcels. In my opinion, this would be the worst outcome for the town. Forcing the relatively small footprint needed for a BESS facility into the middle of a large parcel limits the other future commercial and industrial development that could otherwise occupy it. Meanwhile, sited responsibly at the edge or corner of a large parcel, storage leaves the balance of the site available for additional uses. Battery storage can and should develop symbiotically along other commercial and industrial uses. The code should enable the coexistence rather than force an either or choice between storage and other development. I would respectfully ask the board to permit tier 3 BESS in the high-tech district at a minimum through a special use permit consistent with the public utility and other infrastructure uses already authorized there, and remove any BESS specific setback requirements. Doing so advances the district's purpose and benefits the town of DeWitt as a whole. The attached exhibit illustrates kinds of parcels within the high-tech district that would suit DER scale storage while being fully matched to the preferred manufacturing and R&D uses the district is meant to attract. Thank you for your time and for the continued willingness to engage on this. I welcome the chance to discuss it any further.
Thank you very much.
You want us to make those comments?
I think
I already have.
he already has. The board has gotten them all. Okay, next. Yes, Alexis.
Hello, my name is Alexis and I'm a senior project developer at Carson Power. We are currently developing a battery energy storage system project in an industrial zoned area of DeWitt. I want to begin by saying that I support the town of DeWitt's efforts to establish a thoughtful regulatory framework for the battery energy storage systems. BESS technology is an important part of New York State's clean energy future, and careful considerations of its implementations in local communities matters for residents, for the environment, and for responsible development. I understand that the board is eager to adopt this law, and I respect that urgency. What I'm here to ask is not that you delay adoption tonight, that you commit to working with stakeholders like me after passage to revisit and refine these specific provisions that I believe, as currently written, would create unintended consequences. My first concern is the 1,000-foot residential setback. This is significantly more restrictive than the framework recommended by NYSERDA and would in practice effectively eliminate otherwise suitable sites across DeWitt. While applicants could seek setback relief through the ZBA, the practical reality is that nearly every project would require variance, placing substantial capital at risk under uncertain approval times and likely to turn investment and development in the town. Secondly, the decommissioning security provision currently requires cash escrow. I'd ask the board to consider also allowing surety bonds and irrevocable letters of credit, both of which are industry standard financial instruments already accepted by municipalities and lenders across New York State. The town can require that security be payable to the town, maintained continuously, updated periodically, and available if the owner operates or defaults after notice and cure. This would give the town the protection it needs without imposing a necessary financing burden that may otherwise make otherwise viable projects infeasible. The last issue is the 100-foot wetland setback. The DC and USACE has robust authority over wetlands and their adjacent areas, and any BESS project near a wetland would be subject to a rigorous site-specific review by environmental experts. I'd encourage the board to allow these authorities to continue exercising its jurisdiction rather than layering on a fixed restriction that doesn't account for many of the unique characteristics of each site. I'm not asking to delay the adoption of this law. I'm asking for continued involvement with BESS experts to refine the law. Let us be a resource for you to provide our knowledge, education, and expertise in this area. Responsible energy storage development and strong community protections are not mutually exclusive. I believe that we can achieve both. Thank you for your time and commitment to establishing lasting policy for your community.
Thank you very much.
What company are you?
Carson Power,
Carson.
CARS. Thank you.
Yes, next. Yes.
Lucas Rivera, development manager at Sam Solar. Thank you to the board that's hearing tonight and working diligently to put together this proposed battery energy code language. I, like the other developers here, really appreciate the thoroughness of the code, and I know that a lot of time and effort was put into creating this language. I also, like the developers here tonight, have some concerns regarding the code language and its prohibitive siting restrictions, specifically the wetland setbacks, the 1,000-foot residential setback, as well as the prohibition of the battery energy code in high-tech zones. I would like to ask that the town reconsider their language for the residential setback and allow us to work with battery energy storage professionals to lessen those setbacks depending on certain depending on the feedback of the town, the developers, and battery energy storage professionals such as those at NYSERDA and ESRG that we'll be hearing from later. I would also like to point out that the current language not only limits the amount of battery energy storage projects that may be able to be adopted in the town, but it also does not take into account that the properties that we target for battery energy storage development are often those that are rather undesirable and not suited to other commercial uses that would not have the benefits of battery energy storage, such as tax benefits and infrastructure improvements realized if the code were to be adopted as it is today. While I understand the urgency by the town board to adopt language that, addresses battery energy storage, I would think that you should be aware that once a battery energy code is adopted, developers are required to pay unrefundable utility payments in order to continue progressing these projects. The current language in the code leaves a lot of uncertainty as to whether these projects are able to be progressed and sustainable. We ask that the town swiftly begins engaging with developers, battery energy professionals, and additional and local stakeholders to create amendments that might allow for the existing projects to continue being invested in, and that the benefits that come with battery energy storage to be able to be realized sooner rather than later by potentially killing not only the projects that have been proposed by these developers tonight, but also many others in the queue that have already, the developers here have spent many thousands of dollars to get the projects to where they are today. And as it stands, we will not be able to finance the utility payments that are required for us shortly after this battery code goes in place. So thank you for your time. But we would just hope that we can continue having a dialogue here to have amendments that address the setbacks, the high-tech zone, and the restrictions around wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivia.
Nexam Solar.
What was it?
Nexam Solar.
Next.
NEXAME.
Come forth.
Evening. I'm here representing Energy Safety Response Group, Next Gen X, to come and just describe any fire safety related issues. That's what our company does. We help with the permitting. We do the testing of battery energy storage systems, and we do the training of the firefighters as required by New York State law. I had a chance to review the proposed code in DeWitt. I do commend the point you just brought up at the start of the meeting, that the smaller residential battery systems have to be registered, and the fire department has to be notified of that they're in these homes. I think that's great for firefighter safety. That's something I would push myself as a fire chief. Just about myself, I am the retired FDNY Chief of Hazmat Operations. I did 33 years with the FDNY. I'm currently the Rockland County Hazmat Chief, and I'm a Deputy Chief in my volunteer fire department in Rockland County. I'm just here to maybe dispel some misunderstandings about battery energy storage system safety. I did see the 1,000-foot residential setback. As somebody who developed the fire code in New York City, working with our fire prevention people, and in my role as chief in charge of hazmat operations, we have obviously a lot less space for putting these in New York City. We currently have about 30 BESS systems up and operating, and they're in pretty small lots. We have them next to schools and churches and residential multifamily dwellings, private dwellings, because we just need the power in New York City. We have not had any incidents of fires or emergencies involving any of these systems, even though some of them have been up and running before a lot of the NFPA codes, like NFPA 855, which regulate, and you guys seem pretty schooled up on all this stuff. A lot of these were installed before the NFPA 855 and before the UL 9540 and 9548 testing. So speaking on the 9548 testing, that's typically where we determine the setback information on a battery energy storage system, and that's dependent on the individual system, not on the technology itself. These technologies evolved over the years and has become extremely safe to the point where the amount of installations versus fires has separated dramatically. In the United States, last year, there were 6 fires of battery energy storage systems. One of those was in Warwick, New York, as you're probably all aware. I went up after that fire and I interviewed the Warwick Fire Chief. It's a small volunteer fire department in Orange County. And I interviewed the chief of the Orange County volunteer hazmat team, who responded and actually did an incredibly good job as per industry standards for responding to the fire. They did not put any water on the fire. They simply monitored the area for gases, off-gassing. Those results are on the Village of Warwick's website. They used the air array hazmat monitoring, which is about the most advanced air monitoring equipment out there. They did it close to the burning battery fence line and also downwind from the burning battery fence line. And the highest readings they got on carbon monoxide were 4 parts per million, which would not even set off a residential home CO detector. They also got low readings on hydrogen cyanide, well within OSHA and PESH standards. I just want to read something off of this is directly off the NYSERDA website. It's under their frequently asked questions, if you don't mind me reading this. Okay. The questions: in the event of a fire, what are the possible environmental impacts? It says here, based on the data gathered to date, findings presented by both the American Clean Power Association and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, there have been no reports of harmful levels of environmental contaminants detected following outside the immediate vicinity or project fence perimeter of BESS fire incidents in the United States. Air, soil, and water sampling conducted at multiple sites, including those investigated by New York State by the Fire Safety Working Group. That was ESRG was a big part of the Fire Safety Working Group, as well as the FDFR. Some of my people were on that committee. Found no evidence of pollutants requiring remediation or posing risk to public health. EPA's emergency monitoring following incidents such as the Moss Landing facility fire similarly reported no harmful concentrations of contaminants or particulates in surrounding communities. These reviews indicate that while emissions such as carbon monoxide, hydrogen fluoride, and trace metals can occur, they tend to dissipate quickly and to date have consistently remained concentrations below the threshold of potential harm to human health. I'm not going to read the rest of it, but the point is that a BESS fire poses the same, the products of combustion are basically the same as you would find in a structure fire or vehicle fire. And I do believe that the 1,000-foot distance is probably excessive. I don't know where that number came from, but I think that's something to consider. And also, we do get a lot of questions. I do this pretty regularly about water runoff. There was something about the wetlands. If the firefighters respond as they're trained to respond, they're not going to put any water on this fire. These systems are designed, as what happened in Warwick, to consume themselves and not spread to adjoining containers. And that's via the UL 9548 testing, which is something ESRG does and takes part in, where we actually do complete destructive testing of a battery energy storage container and force it into thermal runaway where it's on fire. And then we determine heat flux from that testing, and that's how we determine the spacing between containers. So I think that number should be possibly, I think NYSERDA could actually be a huge help for the town of DeWitt in determining that, and ESRT would be happy to assist as well. I can take any questions on this matter as well,
Wait, where did you get, what was the source for the quote that you read?
the NYSERDA website.
Did they ever determine what the fire caused from Warwood?
They did not, I haven't heard if they made a determination, but they had fires there previously with the same systems. And the company that builds those is now out of business, they're no longer making
That's
those.
a recurring thing.
It happened in 2023 in Warwick. And this happened again, and that's what actually, the 2023 fire was one of the fires that encouraged New York State to develop this, what's now the strictest fire code in the country, the New York State Fire Code, which went into effect January 1st of this year. And I can go over some of the highlights of the New York State Fire Code, if anyone would like to hear those.
Is anyone on the board interested in that? Okay.
I'm pretty sure our fire chief has those, right?
Yeah.
That's New York State standard, so he would be following that when he advised us.
Oh, he probably did. There's 4 highlights I usually bring up just in case.
Sure,
Okay.
let's hear.
One of them, which I think is most important, is peer review. So any project that is proposed in your town has to be reviewed by a third party. ESRG is one of the 3 companies in New York State that can do that peer review. And that's to ensure that every code and standard is strictly adhered to and courted, including those mandated by the authority having jurisdiction. So if the law was, it has to be a certain distance, we're going to make sure it is. If they say that the fire alarm system is functioning, we actually make them test it and want to see that it works, that it will send a notification to the fire department. One of the other highlights is the response time. Within 15 minutes of an alarm occurring, there has to be a subject matter expert on the phone with the incident commander of the fire department. And that should happen a lot quicker than 15 minutes, but they made it a 15-minute window, so it could be adhered to.
Who is responsible for finding the 15-minute window? Is it upon our?
No, the developer is responsible for all of this. None of this falls on the town. We also require within 4 hours, and it would be in less time than that also, but they make a big window because some parts of New York State are pretty remote. A subject matter expert has to be standing next to the incident commander at that incident, assisting him in making decisions. But throughout the course of an incident, there's information being supplied to the incident commander from remote monitoring that's conducted by the owner of the system and usually by the maker of the system. So like if it was Tesla, they monitor their systems 24/7, and they would have every bit of information that's supplied to them, which is a tremendous amount. Every single cell in that system is actually monitored for heat, voltage, and health, and that information is supplied to the fire chief. Peer review, I mentioned. One other thing I want to. Oh, the emergency response plan. So that's something our company does for the developer, for the fire department. And that is a emergency response plan that is developed with the fire department. And when we come up to do the training, which is required annually, that's something I typically do in New York State. We do a classroom training and then we do a site walkthrough with the fire department. And we usually ask the fire chief, it would be the DeWitt fire chief, to invite the surrounding fire chiefs and whatever local hazmat response teams are to come take this class on batteries and also do a walkthrough of the site with the engineers where we open up the cabinets, explain how it works, determine if the staging area and the incident command post locations in the ESRG are acceptable for them, and a hazard mitigation analysis, which breaks down everything that the fire chief would possibly want to know about the system, the real technical specs. But the emergency response plan to me is the most important thing. And then that training we give the fire department is required annually. So the fire department will know what to do. And I think if you speak to most, when we do the training, I can say without exception, the fire department says, yeah, this is something that's right in our warehouse. We got this. So.
There,
yes,
how long have you been studying the effects of these systems?
Well, they're relatively new. So you're talking about the health effects of,
Oh, environmental health.
ESRG's been in this business about 8 or 9 years now. So every fire that's occurred in the United States, we have people that are getting involved in the investigation, including Moss Landing, including the one in Warwick, there was one in Chamont, upstate New York, and there was another one in Long Island. This is all going back to 2023 when the governor decided to come up with this working group to develop the state law, which is a very good law.
Dan, are there any tier 3 systems in upstate New York as of right now?
I think there's a lot being developed. I don't know how many are in operation. I can't speak to how many have been actually said. I know there's a lot being proposed, like we're doing here today, but in New York City, we have over 30 of them. There are some
Here
because
are they over the 30 in New York City?
there are a lot, yeah. Like you said, in Warwick, for instance, they had the one fire.
Is that a tier 3 that was over 600?
I'm not sure.
Like, what are the kilowatt hours of the ones in New York City?
They're usually smaller because of the size of the property. I know there's one in Staten Island it had probably about 30 containers. So I could have math on how many megawatts that would be, but
How big is each container?
about 875 kilowatt hours.
I mean, physically, how big?
Oh, they're about the size of a little bigger than a typical Connex box. So just the feet lines about 15 by 30, about 8 foot tall, 7 or 8 feet tall.
Now, how many more on the site? Here's the biggest one in New York
It's
City.
got to be about 20, 25 or so. It's that.
Staten Island.
That would definitely be a tier 3
Yeah.
size from in our law.
How old is that one?
That was commissioned about 2.5 years ago.
Working?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was involved in helping them push it through because they were actually concerned about Staten Island blackouts. It was around this time of the year, it was getting hot.
So was it town, city, whatever, Staten Island, were they in favor of it? Were they pushing it or were they suspect?
There were people that weren't happy about it, like we get it everywhere. A lot of it was based on misinformation. But it went through. I don't know, I was involved I was just involved in the fire department side of it. But if they didn't build it, I think they would have had some issues.
So we've got all these units. Are they enclosed or are they just open?
They're the same that we're proposing here. They're the outside containers.
Outside containers.
Yes, so each container individually is spaced a distance from the other containers based on that UL 9548 testing heat flux analysis to make sure that it won't propagate from one. If you have one container that does go into thermal runaway and fully involved, which has become difficult to actually do during testing because they're designed not to.
Yeah, so you got 30 ugly containers. You just put a big fence around them? Do you landscape around them? I mean, because obviously you can't have trees close by. So how do you?
Most of these sites I've worked in, they do landscaping with trees around it, so it won't be an eyesore. That's not really a fire safety. I don't think decibels or.
Again, I've never seen one, so you're the expert.
Oh.
I've seen a bunch of them, so I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah.
What do these things look
Yeah,
like?
I would, basically, when they're built, most people, I don't think know they're even there. The one in Warwick, if it wasn't for social media, I don't think the town would have known anything ever happened in the most recent fire. The fire department got there at 10:30 at night. It was burning, looked like a dumpster fire, basically. The chief determined it was like a monsoon condition, so he determined to leave the engine and the crew back in the firehouse. They called in hazmat, who set up air monitoring around the area. By 3:30 in the morning, the fire department was released because the subject matter experts were on site and they took over. the hazmat team left their air monitoring equipment in place for only 48 hours just to continue the air monitoring for the site.
I can speak to your question, Carrie. Within the proposed law, there's extensive screening within requirements for the planning board. Yeah.
They use to screen them.
I'm sure our planning board will be very inventive with what they want to see to make sure that it looks very nice.
Yeah, I mean, they're usually well maintained. They're in the code. They have to maintain the vegetation at a certain distance and the snow removal and everything else.
Are there any other questions? Did you have any more comments?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Oh, your name for the record.
Oh, sorry, Daniel Murray. Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y.
Yes, Rick.
Name's Rick Coons. I live over on Calhoun, just outside the village of East Syracuse. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I've been a volunteer firefighter, been involved in the fire service since 1976. I've seen all kinds of different things in the many years I've been involved. I made up a bunch of notes. I got these. I'm going to give them to you so you guys can, if you want one, you take them and you can make copies and pass them around. And I wanted to sit back and listen. One comment that I just heard was, gee, the town wouldn't even have known it was there if it wasn't for social media. I don't think the town of DeWitt really wants to find out by social media that there is a potential environmental hazard being put in their neighborhood. And granted, they've come a long way in the last 5, 6, 7 years with this stuff, but these battery electric storage systems, I continually, constantly read of issues all around the country, just, through the fire department magazines that they send to us. A couple of weeks ago, on a very smaller scale, there was, over in Cicero, there was an electric car in a junkyard and it caught on fire and they couldn't put it out. So they got a payloader and they dumped it in a pond. And that's how they had to put that particular fire out. If you have a company that's job is to build these and create these and sell the safety systems on it, everybody's going to get a couple of bucks for doing that stuff. You can't put all your faith in that. You got to go out and do your own research. I spent 3 hours online and everything that's on this paper is stuff that I cut and pasted right off the internet. Just real simple, easy stuff. Core risk for battery storage systems, thermal fire runaways, explosions, toxic emissions, toxic runoff, outage durations. There's pretty much only one reason to have with all the research I've done is to support data centers, because data centers are the ones that when they go down, they got to get the power right back or it screws them up. So you put the battery electric storage systems in, and right behind it comes the guy with the data center. Now he wants to put in because he gets that thing. In the last 20 years, I think I can count on one hand the time my power's gone out. The biggest problem I had is my wife couldn't watch the rest of Star Trek. So what you're looking at is a solution to a problem we don't really have right now, being controlled primarily by the state who is pushing it. I know for a fact there's probably a few of you sitting up there going, I don't really want this thing in my backyard. And I agree with you. This has got nothing. It's got to do with the neighborhoods. And, as far as I'm concerned, you pick a 2,000-foot setback. Because I really don't think, go to the yard and look at a bunch of truck containers sitting in the yard, and that's what you're going to have to look at. I don't care how many trees and bushes and shrubs you put around it. That's what you got to look at. So let's not clutter up the neighborhood. Let's take a step back. This is very new technology. Don't dive into the new technology. You're only going to get eaten. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter.
Peter Baskin from Lynn Acres Boulevard in DeWitt. The gentleman from ESRG scared the hell out of me. Because everything he said was how to react to a fire, not how to prevent the fire. Is there anything in the code that prevents these things from catching fire?
A lot, actually. Not in ours, it's all covered by New York State.
What's there? I mean, I was looking at some of it, and it's the container has to be this, containing the fire, but the fire's already started. There has to be a monitoring system, but the fire's already started. What is there to control the lithium ion reaction to keep it from catching fire? So, I just don't think that we've really addressed the danger here. Now, there have been 90 towns in New York State that have had moratoriums on battery storage systems. Some of the moratoriums are still in place, but 16 towns have come out of the moratorium and voted no. That they don't want them, and they've banned them. Clifton Park, West Seneca, Lackawanna, Yorktown, Mount Kisco, Montgomery, Carmel, Long Beach, Islip, Southold, Smithtown, Hempstead, North Hempstead, Oyster Bay, Gloversville, and Dwayne. So other people have studied this and they say no. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is just say no. Thank you, Nancy. But just say no. There's no reason to do it. Can you tell me, Max, where is the power coming from that's going to go into these batteries?
From the grid.
From the grid. It's not coming from solar farms.
These are designed to be, the tier 3 that we have are designed to be grid level. They could pull directly from multiple sources on the grid.
So is this going to create a demand for more solar farms in order to, so if we have the battery capacity, we can have more solar farms and more windmill farms?
Statewide, yes, that would be ideal, not within the town of DeWitt.
So what benefit is it to the town of DeWitt if it's a state issue?
The town of DeWitt is a part of New York State we all use electricity.
Why do we have to bear the danger?
The purpose of the battery energy storage systems is in part for grid stability. If we want to have stable, reliable power, battery energy storage systems are part of that.
Let's talk about that a little bit. The grid stability issue came up with the law in 2019. As I recall, Cuomo and Hochul passed these energy goals of 6 gigawatts by 2030 and 12 gigawatts by 2035. At that time, we were talking about electric cars. There was a companion part of that law outlining internal combustion engines and converting the sale of new internal combustion engines, not outlining existing ones, and converting the energy, beefing up the energy grid to accommodate EVs. However, that's all fallen apart. All the car companies have canceled their EV programs. Honda, Toyota, Ford, GM, Stellantis, they've all canceled their EV programs. They are building some EVs out of country and shipping them in, but basically the American public don't want them. They know they don't work. The bus companies, Proterra, the leading school bus company, has gone out of business. A couple of the truck manufacturing companies that were making EVs, they've gone out of business. The demand for EVs has fallen. Demand on the power grid is also going to fall. We don't really need this. Why do we need this? Not rhetorical.
You have more comments?
No, I'm asking you a question.
He's answered.
I've answered and I can't counter your reality, so.
The grid can be, the needs of the grid can be met in other ways. The governor is proposing a new nuclear plant in Oswego and maybe up on Messina. So, and mini nuclear grids. So I think that there are going to be other ways to meet the needs, the energy needs of the state. These systems are going to be too small and provide too little power to make any effect on Micron, which has the energy needs of New York and New Hampshire combined, and too small to really meet the needs of most of the data centers, which need, some of them are even talking about building their own nuclear reactors. So we're not going to make a dent in that with a couple of battery storage systems here. So just say no.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Supervisor Arupta Shell, members of the town board. My name is Sarah Yoon. I am with law firm Hodgson Russ, and we represent the renewable development developer Aurora Renewables Inc., which has several battery energy storage project applications currently pending in the town of DeWitt. First and foremost, Aurora appreciates the town board's efforts to establish a thoughtful regulatory framework for battery energy storage systems. We strongly support the goal of protecting the public health, safety, and welfare, and we want to help the town adopt an ordinance that accomplishes that. We're here today because we believe a few targeted revisions would make the proposed law more legally sound and more consistent with New York State's energy policy. Before I begin, I just want to note that there was a letter submitted dated June 5th, 2026 on behalf of Aurora Renewables. I just request that the letter be entered in the public hearing record as it sets out our concerns and our proposed alternatives in greater detail. Many of the concerns were already brought up by other speakers, so I will try to be very brief. The first concern has to do with the industrial only zoning. As currently drafted, the proposed law would limit the tier 2 and tier 3 BESS exclusively to the town's industrial district. And when you layer that with the residential setback and wetland requirements, the number of parcels where projects can actually be built shrinks dramatically. So Aurora's suggestion for your consideration is to allow tier 2 and tier 3 BESS in the high-tech district as well. Given that district's compatibility with BESS and its proximity to electrical grid interconnection points. It's also worth noting that the BESS is quieter, less traffic intensive, and lower impact than many uses already permitted there. The second concern has to do with the 1,000-foot residential setback. This current proposal for this 1,000-foot setback is measured from the nearest property line, and it would render many other otherwise viable industrial parcels unbuildable, particularly the smaller and mid-sized sites.
Just to interrupt you just there for a second, that was in the original draft, and we did modify that given some of the comments too. The 1,000 feet is from the BESS system itself.
Okay,
yes.
Great. And then from the BESS system to the residential property line?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then I can move on to the third concern. So the final concern is with the wetland setback. And that is with the proposed flat 100-foot prohibition from any state or federal wetlands. That goes beyond what New York State DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers themselves require. Both agencies already have comprehensive permitting processes that evaluate construction near wetland buffers on a site-specific basis. So Aurora's suggestion for your consideration is to require BESS projects to obtain all applicable federal and state wetland permits and approvals before any development permits are issued, rather than imposing a blanket setback that exceeds the regulatory standards set by the agencies with the jurisdiction. This would also ensure consistency at the local and the state and federal levels. So in closing, Aurora's goal is the same as the town. We just want to ensure that there's a local law that protects the community and allows appropriately cited projects to move forward. Aurora and its technical team are available to speak with you to address these issues. They're also happy to put you in contact with NYSERDA, who have extensive knowledge and experience working with municipalities through the adoption process. So thank you for your time tonight and for the opportunity to comment this evening.
Thank you very much. Yes. Right.
Good evening. My name is Brad Hunt. I'm a lawyer at Kinsey Hughes, and I represent Carson Power. So I work with Alexis, who I spoke earlier. Also, unrelated to this project, I'm the village attorney for the village of Manly, as I represent the village of Fayetteville. So I'm frequently on the municipal side of the table of things. I would echo what Alexis and others have said, that we understand the need for the regulations and appreciate your work, and just have a few specific concerns. To avoid being repetitive, I just want to talk about one particular issue, because I think it's a small thing that wouldn't hurt the town and could make a big difference to applicants. And that is actually the requirement that you have in the code is currently drafted for a cash only deposit for the decommissioning security. I believe that's a very unusual requirement. It's not in the NYSERDA model law, and in my experience, it's unusual not just for battery regulations, but for any kind of security deposit that a town or a municipality would require a developer to make for the construction of any kind of infrastructure. And I would suggest that you consider allowing a bond or letter of credit, subject to terms that the town board approves and review of the town attorney. And as I said, I think you can do that without really sacrificing any security for the town. And it can make, in some cases, it can make a big difference, because these projects, especially the bigger ones, tend to some extent, they're just a math problem on the developer side. They put together complicated financing packages that, in the case of battery systems, involve public financing as well as private, and they got to make the numbers work. And if you change a letter of credit to a cash escrow in a big project, that can make a big difference. So I think that kind of approaches effectively banning projects that you may not want to ban. And I'd ask that you consider changing that. I think that's a small enough change. It's not substantial that you can do it tonight if you want, or if not, then at some point in the future. And again, thank you for all your work on this. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening?
I have one more comment, please.
Okay.
Thank you. I thought I was the last one. I just want to mention a couple of things. For 23 and a half years, I lived in the Bay Area, California. I've seen brownouts, blackouts, rolling blackouts, and everything else. We don't have that here. When we lose our power in the town of DeWitt, it's because it's usually because some inexperienced motor vehicle operator decides that he would like to take the telephone pole down and disconnect the wires. We usually have it back up within an hour or so. Everybody that's come up to speed, except for me, because I don't get no money for nothing, is paid. They're all paid to be here. They all have a business. They all have a stake, a financial stake in getting us to push this forward. Please don't buy. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure who, somebody in the field. I'm not sure who would answer this. Dan, something tells me it might be you, but do peaker plans come into this conversation at all? How and why?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So peaker plans are what's turned on when there is a big surge demand. Having
a battery in your town allows instead for that peaker plant to be turned on, emit a lot of fossil fuels. It's extremely expensive as well. Rely on the energy that comes from that battery. So you're decreasing that reliance that you have on peaker plants.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other comments from the board that people would like to make before we close the public hearing?
I'll just go on public record and say if the lawyers and lobbyists are going together at us against certain topics, we must be on the right track.
Okay, well, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. I wanted to say that I appreciate all the comments from everyone tonight. I believe that battery energy storage systems are a necessary part of the electrical grid of the future. I believe that it will help us move from fossil fuels to more renewable energy sources, especially like was just mentioned, the peaker plants, where those are usually coal or natural gas that spin up because they can burn immediately. So it helps prevent pollution within New York State as well. To the question of why DeWitt, we have a significant area of industrial land within the town of DeWitt, some of the most industrial land within Onondaga County. This is an industrial purpose. Industrial land zone that way is designed for those purposes. There is an inherent fire risk with energy, but there is an inherent fire risk with many industrial uses that we already have in DeWitt. You may remember we had basically a fire that was originally caused by batteries at a transfer station. All that already is permitted within the town of DeWitt. We had a long burning lumber fire in an industrial area within the town of DeWitt. Not allowing battery energy storage systems would not eliminate fire risk within our industrial areas. And in many ways, there are other more environmentally hazardous uses already ongoing within our industrial lands within the town of DeWitt. So for our residents, for the benefit of their electrical grid that they need to use to power their homes, for the benefit of their lungs in having hopefully less polluted air from less polluted energy sources, and also in general to help with human created climate change and not increasing the temperature of the earth and the atmosphere overall. I think that allowing battery energy storage systems is important for the town of DeWitt. The cross side of that is in taking the residents into account is why we have the restrictions that we have in this law, in restricting it to industrial in that 1,000-foot setback from houses. I am open to many of the comments by many of the speakers tonight. I do commit, if we pass this law this evening, to immediately picking it back up for any possible revisions. High-tech zone, I think, is one that we've discussed about accessory use within a high-tech zone that we might be able to look at. The cash requirements on the decommissioning, I also appreciate that is one I would like to look into, probably not eliminating, but lessening, but we ran out of time before this version we wanted to pass. So that is something that we would like to speak with the engineers and the attorneys about in the future. So thank you for the comments that we've had. We've had great partners from the DeWitt Fire Department, from NYSERDA, from our own codes department, reviewing the new fire code that went into place in January. We had a task force that's been started reviewing this a year ago, and we have met multiple times. We do definitely have a more restrictive law. There's something someone once said to me, I think it was my grandmother, about you have a good compromise when nobody's happy. And I feel like to a certain extent, we have something that protects our residents, but is also a little more restrictive than the developers would like, I understand. So I will be voting in favor of this. I would definitely recommend that we pass this tonight. And then I will continue to work for sensible revisions in the near future. If there are things that we identify that are just too restrictive, so that it just is, the last thing I want to do is pass this law, but not have it workable within the town of DeWitt. So are there other comments from the board?
I tend to agree with you, Max. I mean, obviously there's benefits and there's always risks with new technology, but I think this is fairly restrictive. I think the team has done a really good job. Nobody's an expert on this yet, except Dan Murray back there. But I really believe it's a good start. I agree with you. Let's modify it. Let's work with it. Let's identify the areas that possibly could work for these in our industrial zone at this point. We've had one of the attorneys or consultants say that it's down to maybe 50 sites. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but again, I think battery storage is going to be important going forward over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I am with you. I'm in favor of doing this.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. Others? If yes, no.
Oh, I don't have anything to say. I helped draft it. I'm satisfied with our stringent rules.
Okay.
So am I. I wouldn't be interested in changing the 1,000 feet. So
I think the 1,000 feet is one of the things that I hear what you're saying, Dan. I hear what everybody else, but that is one of the ones that might not be the first thing to go. I think for the safety of our residents and our homeowners, I want to know what it's going to look like and get built and see.
I'd rather err on the side of
Caution to start. Yep, absolutely. Okay. Well, I would like to take the speaker's privilege on this one and make the motion to pass this law. Do I have a second? From Patricia? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. The only other thing on the agenda that I have tonight is a proclamation for our time capsule for the 250th celebration of American independence. I am just going to read this very briefly. Whereas the year 2026 marks the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America, a historic milestone celebrating the nation's enduring commitment to liberty, democracy, and opportunity. And whereas the town of DeWitt is proud to join communities across the nation in commemorating this significant occasion through educational, cultural, and community-centered events that honor our shared heritage and inspire future generations. And whereas members of the DeWitt community have contributed photographs, letters, artifacts, memorabilia, and messages that capture the spirit, achievements, challenges, and aspirations of our community in 2026. And whereas the creation and placement of a community time capsule provides a unique opportunity to preserve a snapshot of life in the town of DeWitt during the America 250 celebration, creating a bridge between today's community and future generations. And whereas the Willis Carrier Recreation Center, an all-inclusive recreational facility and community park, generously donated by the Carrier Corporation to remain forever a place of recreation, gathering, and community connection, has been selected as the home of this community time capsule, linking the town's past, present, and future generations. And whereas this time capsule represents the collective stories, memories, accomplishments, and aspirations of the DeWitt community, and will serve as a lasting testament to this historic anniversary. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the town board of the town of DeWitt hereby recognizes and celebrates the placement of the town of DeWitt America 250 community time capsule at Willis Carrier Park during the town's America 250 celebration. Be it further proclaimed that this community time capsule is dedicated to future generations and is intended to preserve the history, culture, and spirit of the DeWitt community as it exists in 2026. Be it further proclaimed that the time capsule shall remain sealed and protected for 25 years and is planned to be unearthed in 2051, allowing a future generation to discover and reflect upon the people, events, and milestones that shaped the town of DeWitt during the nation's 250th anniversary celebration. I would like to remind everybody that our celebration is this Wednesday at Carrier Park. There will be bands, there will be the farmers market, there will be some presentations by, I believe, Senator Ryan and Assemblymember Hunter, as well as myself. We will be dedicating the time capsule, and then we'll be followed up by a wonderful 250th anniversary fireworks celebration this year, which we have moved to our newly completed Carrier Park very excitingly. So I encourage you all to come. I encourage all of you to submit. There's still time. If you have anything you'd like to add to the time capsule, the same for the community watching tonight or here in the room, please submit anything to the town clerk to be included. And final thank you to our town clerk, Angela Ippolito, for coming up with this idea, for putting it into practice, actually doing it and leading the whole thing. It was a great idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any comments? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the proclamation. From Joe, a second from Carrie. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. We do have one very short thing to discuss in executive session, but before we go to that, were there any town board updates that anybody wanted to say this evening? No? Okay, then I'll take a motion to enter executive session. From Carrie, a second from Patricia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all very much for coming tonight. I will be in touch with those of you that had comments about changes coming up in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alon.